One of the things that I've heard a lot of MBTI naysayers say is like it's just like horoscopes. The implication being that horoscopes are worthless garbage, therefore MBTI is worthless garbage. Um, Now, if I want to disprove that statement, well, I kind of got to compare MBTI to horoscopes. Now, while I personally don't believe that horoscopes have any validity to them, I always tell people you can't really discredit something that you don't know anything about. And, admittedly, I know pretty much nothing about horoscopes or astrology in general. The reason being, I just never saw any validity to it, and therefore I never thought it was worth looking into at all. I mean, what little I do know is basically the time of year that you're born assigns you a certain sign or a category of what you are, and that defines stuff about your personality or something like that. And that makes absolutely no sense to me. How exactly could the time of year that you're born have any bearing whatsoever on how you end up as a person? I mean, particularly when there are so many other factors that could come into play. And thus far, nobody's been able to offer me an explanation as to how such a thing could possibly be valid. But that's actually one of the weird things I've noticed about astrology enthusiasts. They don't seem really interested in explaining it to the skeptics like me. If anyone wants to know why I believe in MBTI, yeah, I'll gladly explain it. But, with astrology, it just seems to be like, well, if you're not willing to look into it yourself, I'm not going to waste my time trying to explain it to you or trying to convince you that it's real. But then here I am, I'm not interested in looking into it unless you can convince me that it's worth looking into. So, we're at like this gridlock type of situation. So then, that leaves my stance at, well, I don't know enough about astrology to claim with absolute certainty that it's BS, but unless and until somebody can convince me that it's valid, I'm just going to roll with the assumption that it's not. And so, if somebody tries to say, well, you're only saying that because you don't know enough about it, well, sure, I've admitted that already. I know I don't know much about it, but if you want to educate me about it, go right ahead. The fact is, I have seen polls on like the Enneagram Type 9 forums asking for people's zodiac sign, and I happen to be a Libra, and it's really weird because I've seen a noticeable higher amount of Libras among the Type 9s than any other zodiac sign. I haven't looked at the other Enneagram types for comparison, but I don't know. I don't know if that's just a weird coincidence, or if there's some reason that I'm just unaware of as to why a lot of Type 9s happen to be Libras. Something that goes beyond a simple, this is what Libras are, this is what Type 9s are. Well, still, what could be an explanation for a comparatively large number of Type 9s being born between August whatever and September whatever? I don't know if there even is an explanation. But, like I said, if anyone's interested in offering up an explanation, I'd love to hear it. But anyway, getting back to the validity of typology theory, what I've seen of most of the critics of MBTI or Enneagram is they're discounting the tests. They're saying the tests are flawed. And the thing is, well, we know the tests are flawed, but it's not about the tests. There's a whole theory that these tests are based on. I mean, we say MBTI to talk about Myers-Briggs typology theory. I'm aware that MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, meaning the test. But most of the time when I talk about MBTI, I'm just talking about, Myers-Briggs type theory. But yeah, we know the tests aren't perfect. Mistypes happen all the time. But that's the thing. People assume that this whole theory is invalid just because people get different results every time they take the test. Like I said, yeah, the test is flawed. According to the theory, we're born with our type, and so we're always the same type, and therefore at least one of the times that you took the test, your result was wrong. That doesn't mean there's no such thing as an MBTI type. And I guess another criticism of MBTI is that it does more harm than good. You know, it causes divisions. It puts people in boxes. That's another thing people say a lot. You know, I don't want to be put in a box. And to that, I would say you already are in several boxes. You know, you can be categorized as left-handed or right-handed. You can be categorized as male or female. You can be categorized by your age, by your ethnicity, by your occupation. You know, we put ourselves in boxes all the time, and it's not a bad thing. People are different, and typology theory helps us understand each other's differences. Another criticism of MBTI is that it's not scientifically proven, or it's not accepted in the psychology community. Okay, I know it's not. So what? Doesn't mean it's worthless. It helps us understand why some people have some preferences over others. Helps us to understand each other better. Understand your own strengths and weaknesses. How you can use other people's strengths and weaknesses to work together. And unlike horoscopes, personality types are based on one's natural cognitive preferences, the way you process information, and has nothing to do with when or where you're born or any other external factors that have no influence on one's personality. It's like horoscope is basically, we're telling you you are this way because you are this thing. Whereas typology theory is, I'm saying I am this way, and therefore by definition I am this thing. But I guess a lot of the typology critics just don't like to be called this thing at all. You know, the whole not wanting to be put in a box thing. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you stand, but, you know, just my goal here is just to explain why I find it interesting and why it is not in any way like horoscopes. At least now nobody has the right to claim that it's just like a horoscope. Anyway, that's it. Try that again. And thus far, nobody has ever been